Hey everybody, welcome to a wet Tuesday, and welcome to our daily devotional. As you take your Bible and turn to Psalm 91 and verse 4, give you a little bit of background as you do that. You remember yesterday we said we'd be looking this week at this psalm that has 9 different securities that were offered for Jesus. We talked about it being a messianic psalm, which means that it was intended, yes, for Jesus, offered securities. And you may have thought after yesterday's psalm, after yesterday's devotional, wondered, well, why would Jesus need securities? Well, he was 100% God, of course, but he was 100% man. So he was subject, being human, 100% human as well, he was subject to emotions. And that should give you the key right then, because you know that when we have emotions, the devil loves to play on our emotions. So, and Jesus, we know that he had emotions. We know that he wept. We know that he cried a couple different times, cried over Jerusalem and the state of affairs there. He cried because his friend Lazarus was in the grave, and so that's the reason that he would need securities. But we also talked yesterday about the fact that these securities, or I believe these securities, are available for you and I as well. And that's why I claim this psalm as my own, and reminded you, of course, as I do each day this week, I pray that you are looking at these and realizing them in your life then as well. So let's look at verse 4 today. Has a couple more of the securities as we look this week from verses 3 yesterday through verse 13 at the end of the week. Looking at verse 4 today. Psalm 91 verse 4 says, "He will cover you with his feathers. You will take refuge under his wings. His faithfulness will be a protective shield." And the King James there says a shield and a buckler, which I think is very interesting and has a great visual there that I'll share with you in just a moment. But I'm thinking of shelter and refuge there in the first part of that verse. God's tender and personal care for you and I. Think about that for a minute. When I read this, I think about how a mother bird cares for her young, right? We all know how that is. We all remember even in our lives when we were young and how mothers took care of us. But when I read this, I think as well, one of my favorite verses is in Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 31, where it speaks of the eagle and how we, as God's people, mount up on eagle's wings. And I love that visual. I love the visual of the fact that we, like a mother bird protects her young, God places us under his wings. We're sheltered and we're protected there as well. And his protection is his faithfulness, I believe, because his promises there are true. And when I think about shield and buckler, I mentioned that from the King James. That's what the King James Version says. I think of shield and buckler. Think about it this way. When we get in our automobile, think of the airbag as our shield. And you know what I'm going to say about buckler. Think of the seatbelt as your buckler. So the next time you get in your automobile, think about how God is your shield and your buckler. But the important question is today then, do you know in your life the protection of God personally? That's the big question of the day. Do you know that? And if you do, if you have professed Christ, if you have Jesus, his Holy Spirit residing with you each day in your heart, then I urge you and even challenge you to think about the last time that you remember that he protected you. Think about that, remind yourself of that, and be encouraged today. Thanks for being here again. God bless you and love you. He does. I do too. And we'll see you tomorrow.